The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Hope you guys doing great. Right now, I'm patrolling on the streets in North Miami on my way home from the phone store. Got my phone case, so I'm pretty happy about that. But I wanted to continue to talk about the lightweight division, but not in the way that most people are talking about it. You see what I'm saying? Right now, the talk is about Lopez and Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis and Devin Haney and Luke Campbell and Lomachenko and all these guys, right? And rightfully so, because those are the established names of the division. Those guys have proven themselves to be the creme de la creme of the division, and they want the attention. So no problems, no qualms about that here. But what I wanted to talk about were maybe some of the guys that people aren't talking about as much about, and I wanted to kind of explore the question of who exactly, if there was a Darkhorse fighter, in the lightweight division, who is that Darkhorse fighter? And I think when you talk about the Darkhorse fighter in the lightweight division, I think it boils down to about 4 to 5 names, and I wanted to just explore each name, give them their shine, talk about them, and talk about how I think they match up with the fighters in the division. So the 4 to 5 names I think that could be Darkhorse of the lightweight division and pick up a big win to kind of flip the division on its head at some point are as follows. You got Isaac Cruz, you got George Kambosos Jr., you got Felix Verdejo, you got Michel Rivera, and you got Emmanuel Tega. Now, 3 of these guys that I named are ranked, but they're also ranked fighters that are in the South Florida area. 2 of them I've interviewed, 3 of them train in South Florida, so I'm familiar with them. And that's Michel Rivera, Emmanuel Tega, and George Kambosos. And these are all guys that are going to potentially be the next opponent for one of these big name lightweights at some point in time. So we'll start with the Dominican. We'll start with the one I know the most, Michel Rivera. Okay. Now I was there. I was in San Antonio, in the crowd when Michel Rivera fought Ladarius Miller. Unfortunately, or maybe even fortunately, it wasn't on TV because it wasn't the most exciting fight. He fought a veteran fighter in Ladarius Miller who had a lot at stake in terms of his career. You know, he had picked up some decent wins early in his career, but Mayweather Promotions hasn't been really moving him. And it's a fight where if you were one of the couple hundreds of thousands that were in the crowd to watch it, it was a very forgettable fight. Michel Rivera boxed well. He used his jab. He stayed disciplined within his game plan and controlled the fight with his lead hand, his left hand, the jab, and mixed in some right hands. And it went the full 10 rounds. He won the fight. And that's another good win for Michel Rivera. You know, earlier this year he boxed the veteran Fidel Maldonado Jr. and I thought he beat Fidel Maldonado Jr. better than Amir Imam did. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Michel Rivera, he's someone that has good technical skills. I wouldn't say he's got like fight-changing punching power, but he's got respectable punching power. He's got what I call keep you at bay punching power. You know, you can't just walk up on Michel Rivera and do whatever you want, because you will get clipped. It will be something hard, and you will get hurt really badly. So, you know, what's next for Michel Rivera? He's coming off of 2 good wins against 2 veteran fighters. You know, he's starting to compile a decent little resume as he climbs the ranks. You know, and I was hearing some people say that maybe Michel Rivera could be Gervonta Davis' next opponent. Now, let's just say that's the matchup. Let's say Michel Rivera winds up being that next matchup for Gervonta Davis. Obviously, people are going to be gassed on Tank, or the One as I call him, because he just folded up Leo Santa Cruz like a pair of cheap jeans, wrinkled jeans, you know, like a blue steel chair. It was the knockout of the year. It was a box office performance. It was a star-making performance. So people will naturally write off this kid because they're not going to know much about him. If they've seen him fight, he's won, and he's won convincingly, but he hasn't been exactly sensational. So a lot of times what you find in boxing is when a fighter isn't sensational and he's not winning in the most sensational fashion, and he's fighting a guy that did win in sensational fashion, they'll write the other guy who's not winning in sensational fashion off. That's just that's the nature of the game. That's how it goes. I think every boxing fan has been guilty of that at some point in their lives, you know, following this great sport. You know what I'm saying? But I think it'd be a good fight for Gervonta Davis, because Rivera is a big, solid 135 pounder. You know, whether you want to admit it or not, you know, Tank Davis, the One, is not proven at the 135 pound limit. He's done all of his damage at 130, the one time he stepped up to 35, he fought Gamboa. Didn't look so good unless he fought Pedraza at 35, but I don't think he did. I'm pretty sure he fought him at 30, but if I'm wrong, correct me. But the one time he stepped up to 135 against the name opponent, he didn't look so good. And he fought a guy who was old and didn't look that good against him. And he was on one leg. So I wouldn't exactly write off Michel Rivera. I wouldn't pick him to win. To be honest with you, he's my friend, and I want him to win. He's one of South Florida's very own, adopted very own, via the Dominican Republic. But you know, I wouldn't write him off because he's got the skills to compete. He's got the range, the height, and you know, I think he can make a good fight of that. And so he might be Gervonta, the next opponent. Look out for Michel Rivera, a good young fighter coming up in the lightweight division. He's got Darkhorse potential. You know, trained by Herman Caicedo and all the fine folks down there. They got Caicedo Sports Training Center. Best of luck to them. So you got him. Then you got Felix Verdejo, right? And Felix Verdejo was the guy that, if we could rewind the clock back many years ago, this is a guy that was, you know, destined for greatness. You know, what Edgar Berlanga is right now, he was that 5 years ago. He was looked at to be the next Puerto Rican superstar, the guy that filled the shoes of Miguel Cotto. They were even talking about him fighting Crawford at one point. That was supposed to be a big fight, but that fizzled out after a while. So, you know, he had the motorcycle accident. He had things happen to him in his life. He took a tough loss. But if anybody knows anything about boxing, they know that Felix Verdejo, in terms of amateur pedigree and talent, pure raw talent and ability, is one of the best fighters at 135. And he's 3 fights in with Ismael Salah as his new trainer. And ever since he got with Ismael Salah, we've seen the Verdejo we wanted to see. We saw it most recently when he fought a fighter at Will Madera, who is no pushover, no slouch, you know, no bum. And he got him out of there in 1 round. And it was the kind of performance that gives people who like Verdejo, like me, hope that he can fulfill some of that potential that we were hoping to see when he turned pro many years ago and was making waves. They were saying that his next fight, I don't know if it's finalized, but I was hearing from a lot of people that his next fight might be against Richard Comey, and I think that'd be a hell of a fight for Verdejo, because when we talk about Comey, we're talking about a respectable, tough game fighter, a very respectable fighter, a credible fighter at 135. Been world champion, beating some good names, been in there with good names. Fought Teofimo, got folded up by him. A win for Verdejo in sensational fashion against a guy like Comey would definitely put him back on the map officially, in my opinion. It should officially, on boxing fans, put him on the map. And then we're looking at maybe him fighting Teofimo Lopez, and how amazing would that be? You know, to see someone with the youth, with the pedigree, with the range, with the size of a Verdejo against someone with the explosiveness of Lopez, the counter-punching abilities of Lopez, the quick twitch muscles of Lopez. I think it's a great style matchup. And honestly, to me, I don't think that fight is like a wide margin. I think like Verdejo versus Lopez, I look at that as like a 55-45 fight. I give it in favor of Lopez because, you know, he's undefeated. He's just beat Lomachenko. He's gonna be a lot harder to beat. To beat him right now, you're gonna have to show that extra bit of quality, because, you know, when a guy becomes world champion, let alone undisputed world champion, they become like 10% harder to beat. That's the old adage in boxing. So Verdejo is gonna have to teach Lopez to lose if that fight ever comes off. But I would love to see it because it's an easy fight to make for Top Rank. It's a fight they talked about even dating back to the early parts of last year. And that fight right there, should Verdejo get it and win it, would really validate him in what people thought he was many years ago. So I think Verdejo has about as good a chance as anybody to become the dark horse of 135, okay? So you got him. Then you got Emmanuel Tega, right? Let's talk about Emmanuel Tega, one of Ghana's very own, Game Boy. This is probably the most unknown fighter out of everybody that I named earlier. But I'm familiar with Game Boy. You know, he's developed quite the reputation here in the South Florida boxing scene. He's been training at the Sweatbox Gym in Davie, and he's a regular sparring partner of George Kambosos. He's sparred with Amir Imam. I believe he sparred with Xander Zayas as well. And everybody that I talked to that sparred with this guy, they all say that this guy he comes at you, he's nonstop pressure, and that he'll be one of the hardest fights for anybody in this division. Now, there's not a ton of film on Tagoe. His record is full of nothing but mostly fighters from Ghana. But if there's one thing we know about African fighters in general, if they're not going to do anything else, even if they're not the most technically sound, if they're not the best, one thing African fighters will do is behave like fighters. And you know, sometimes you get these, you get every now and then you get these instances in boxing where some of these hyped up prospects, these protected prospects, they'll meet a guy like a Tagoe who's unknown, who it will probably be a heavy underdog with whoever he fights, because he was rumored to fight Ryan Garcia at one point. He'll be a heavy underdog no matter who he fights, whether it's Lopez or Ryan Garcia or Haney, whoever it is. And sometimes a guy like that could upset the apple cart and be the toughest fight in this entire division for any of these guys. You see what I'm saying? So I like Tagoe. Just in talking to him, he's got that fighter spirit. Like I said, he's African, so the Africans know how to fight. They know how to behave like fighters, and they will behave like fighters. And I don't have like the most knowledge of him as far as in the ring. I've seen him train, and all I'm really going off of is minimal knowledge of his sparring partners here in South Florida. But I feel like Tagoe, in some way, shape, or form, I'm not saying he'll be champion or that he'll score a big upset over a guy like Lopez or a Haney or a Ryan Garcia, but maybe on that second tier, like your Comays and your Campbells and your Verdejos. Don't be surprised if one of these fights, when Tagoe gets that step-up fight and fights one of those guys, don't be surprised if he winds up actually folding one of these guys up, because he's got that kind of that kind of will to win. From what I've seen him in the gym and talking to him, I think he's got that. I think he's got that to him. So Emmanuel Tega is another one. One of the most interesting ones out of all of them is Isaac Cruz. The Mexican fighter. Let's talk about Isaac Cruz, man. This is a guy that, when we look at his last 2 fights on his resume, Isaac Cruz is coming off a win against Thomas Matisse. And if anybody knows anything about Thomas Matisse, if you really up in your boxing and you watch Showbox, Thomas Matisse is a very tough fighter out of Ohio, a guy with solid skills, good punching power. He's been in some really some big dog fights. So to beat a guy like Thomas Matisse as a prospect on your way up, that means you're at a certain level if you beat a Thomas Matisse. So Cruz beat him, right? He steps it up another level on undercard. He opens up the undercard of Gervonta Davis with Leo Santa Cruz against a veteran, I might add, a veteran in Diego Magdaleno, a guy that's been in there with a lot of name fighters. Most notably, Teofimo Lopez got folded up by him. But regardless, he's a veteran, and that's a big step up for him. And man, he didn't just beat Diego Magdaleno. He folded that dude up in the first round. And he even said after the fight, like, look, I'm the Mexican Mike Tyson. The Mexican Mike Tyson was born on Saturday. And he's really confident about himself. And he's one of those fighters that's from Mexico City. He's a tough Mexican fighter. Comes forward. Has that Mexican spirit to him. And for me, when I look at skills, will, determination, style, if I had to pick a dark horse out of the 5 guys I am talking about, this would be my guy right here. This would be my guy, because I feel like with the way he fights, the conviction he fights with, the style he fights with, he's capable of taking a Lopez or a Ryan Garcia or a Haney or one of these type of guys to some deep, dark, and uncomfortable places they haven't been before. And I don't know which one of them will fold, but that's just how the game goes. Not everybody, not all these guys who have creme de la creme A-level ability are gonna have that A-level dog in them. So he's the kind of guy that I want to see in the ring, one of these guys, because he's gonna be able to pull something out of them or expose something that is not in them, and we might have ourselves a new Mexican star if that's the case. So Isaac Cruz is a guy that I've been very impressed with over his last 2 fights against Thomas Matisse and Diego Magdaleno, because when you're a young fighter, right, and you're stepping up and you're not proven and you haven't really done anything in the sport, those are tough guys to step up against, and he's passed them in relatively good fashion. So much respect to Isaac Cruz. Shout out to him. And then you got, last but not least, certainly not least, we got George Kambosos Jr. Now, I still haven't had a chance to watch his fight with Lee Selby in its entirety, but I did get a chance to catch a couple of rounds of the Lee Selby fight while I was at the Gervonta Davis Tank fight. And I've seen a couple of other of his fights. And listen, George can fight. George was a regular Manny Pacquiao sparring partner, did hundreds of rounds of Pacquiao. So that says something about him, and that gives him a certain level of experience. Everybody I've talked to at Sweatbox Gym always talks about this warrior mentality he has and how he's so confident. And I believe what they're saying. I believe that Kambosos is going to go in there, and whoever fights Kambosos is going to have to teach him how to lose. He's not going to go against Lopez and just lay down. He's not going to go against any of these guys and just lay down. He's going to go in there fully believing he can win. And Kambosos is capable of slugging it out. He's capable of brawling. He's a solid boxer. But I'll be honest with you, when I saw him against Lee Selby, and I'm saying this not having watched the fight in its entirety, but I watched around here and around there. When I watched him, I saw a lot of things in his style, because right now I believe he's pretty high up in the IBF rankings. He might even be the mandatory for Lopez, but don't quote me on that. Kambosos is someone that when I watched him fight, I saw him as a guy that was planting his feet a lot. And I saw him as a guy that has some mobility but doesn't always use it. And when you're fighting a guy like Teofimo Lopez and you plant your feet and you stay there for him, you're playing right into his hands. I mean, Teofimo showed us he's a complete boxer. He doesn't need you to stay there in front of him and plant your feet. But if you do that, you're opening yourself up to counter-punching opportunities. You're opening yourself up to, just being exposed to the best attributes of a Teofimo Lopez. So I like Kambosos. I think if these guys that I'm naming, Verdejo, Cruz, Tagoe, Michel, Rivera, I think he'd have a good chance against all the guys on this tier and the second tier as well. But I just feel like from what I've seen in his skill set, he's going to have to clean some things up in a major way before Teofimo, and I'm not sure that he's going to be able to do it. But I root for him. He seems like a really good fighter. He seems like someone that is very dedicated to the sport of boxing. He's someone that, best wishes to him. I personally, I don't want to see him fight Teofimo Lopez next, because I want to see Teofimo Lopez move up to 140 and fight the undisputed winner, or I want to see Teofimo Lopez fight Devin Haney or Gervonta Davis. But I know boxing is a business. I know we can't always get those fights right away. So that could be a potential opponent for him in George Kambosos. And I'll be honest with you, I think if Kambosos fights him with the way he was fighting Selby, and you can't go off of fighters' past fights all the time, you can't judge him off of the past fights all the time, I get that. But if he goes in there fighting Teofimo the way he was fighting Kambosos, I think it'll be an entertaining fight. I think he'll even have a bit of success, because Teofimo, he's there. Teofimo can get hit. But I don't see Kambosos beating a guy like Teofimo. I think his skill set would be more advantageous against believe it or not, like a Ryan Garcia, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. But yeah, Michel Rivera, Isaac Cruz, Emmanuel Tega, George Kambosos Jr., Felix Verdejo, who is the dark horse of this crop to me. It's 18 minutes into the video as I'm about to get home. I think the dark horse of the division, in my humble opinion, based on what I've seen, based on the style, based on everything that I know about them, and everything I've seen, in which, in all fairness to Kambosos, I do have to watch more on Kambosos. So, if you're a George Kambosos fan, or if you run his career, or if you're his manager, Peter Khan, I know you're out there, you might watch this. I have to watch more on George. I know he's a good fighter, but take what I'm saying about George with a grain of salt. Of those 5 fighters, I think Isaac Cruz is probably the best dark horse in the division, because I feel like he's one of those fighters who I've seen in dogfights. He's one of those fighters who I believe can win a dogfight against one of the top guys and take a Ryan Garcia, a Lopez, or a Haney to some deep, dark places. With the volume, with his ability and willingness to just keep throwing punches. And he's one of those Mexican Azteca warrior type fighters. I know not every fighter from Mexico is one of those type of fighters, but he's one of them. And he's strong, and he's been in there with some good fighters. He's got good experience. And if there's one thing in boxing you cannot put a price on, it's having that quality in-ring experience. So I'm gonna go with Isaac Cruz. In terms of the dark horses of the division, in chronological order, these are who are the guys. I'll even rank it for you guys. I got Isaac Cruz, number 1. I got Felix Verdejo, a very close number 2. I got Michel Rivera, number 3. Right? I said. Who did I say first? I said I'm losing my train of thought here. I said I had Isaac Cruz 1. I have Verdejo 2. I've got. What was it? I'll go with Michel Rivera 3. I'll go with Emmanuel Tega 4, because I like Tega, and I think at some point in time he's gonna get the right matchup. And at 5, I'm gonna go with George. George, I had to watch more of George. And that's number 1. And number 2, George has to, in my opinion, prove a lot to me, because he fought a smaller guy in Selby, and I wasn't impressed with what I saw. But like I said, I'm gonna go watch that fight, and I might have to do an update video when I do. But that's my opinion on the dark horse at lightweight at 135. You guys let me know if there's any names that I missed, and if you agree with those 5 names I gave you, you can rank them in order between Isaac Cruz, Verdejo, Michel Rivera, Emmanuel Tega, and George Kambosos. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you take the time to subscribe. But like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dane. So until next time, take care, guys.